Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a 1993 movie that was released on Blu-ray by Kino Lorber in December of 2020, and this is Bodies, Rest in Motion. It's directed by Michael Steinberg, and it is starring Eric Stoltz, Phoebe Cates, Tim Roth, and Bridget Fonda. It's set in the desert, filmed mostly in Tucson, Arizona. The atmosphere is sort of gentrification, shopping malls, strip malls all over the place, the same Targets, the same stores pretty much that we see today, but also a thriving shopping mall where two of the characters are employed. Bridget Fonda plays a character named Beth. Beth is a waitress. She's sort of she has a strangely intense, quiet attraction for just about every man she meets. Her life so far has been defined by her relationships with men. Fonda brings the Fonda mystique to this role, as she always did in the movies. I think in that way, she's closer to her grandfather, Henry Fonda, who could also just appear. He didn't really have to say things. There was just something in his stature and his mien that was compelling to movie audiences, and I think Bridget has that much more than the more animated style that her aunt Jane Fonda has. Beth is living with Tim Roth's character named Nick. Nick is sort of an overgrown juvenile delinquent, but he has lots of charm. He's very funny, and Roth is very good at bringing out the humor in this character, so even though he's an asshole, we don't dislike him completely. This is a story about lost children of the 1990s. So he has lost his job at his electronics store in the mall that he's working at. His dream is to go to Butte, Montana. He saw a advertisement saying that Butte is the future, but it was a few years ago, so the future must be there now. As anybody who has ever been to Butte, Montana, I would not consider it a destination of choice. But Bridget Fonda's Beth is going to go along with him. They're packing up their house, they're moving out, and a painter comes to prepare the house for the next occupants. He's played by Eric Stoltz, Sid. Sid is a romantic. He stays in one place. He doesn't move away. His father told him, "Your luck will find you if you stay in one place." And he's an incurable romantic. He falls in love with Bridget Fonda immediately. Tim Roth absconds. They have a brief affair. In her grief at being treated like an asshole by Nick, like I say, he immediately falls in love, but she doesn't want, Beth doesn't want to be again defined by another man. She's in a rut, and as you feel in your 20s, you have to escape that rut. Next door is Phoebe Cates' Carol. Carol is Beth's best friend and Tim Roth's Nick's earlier girlfriend, but they still have a good relationship, a friendly relationship. She works at the mall as well. They meet for lunch every day. They're playful together. And while the other characters seem to be either lost or stuck in one place, maybe not able to see life as it really is, Carol, she can see life clearly. She gives good advice. She can see what Beth probably needs, and she's the kind of friend you really want to have. She's a very interesting character, and you can sense that she dumped Nick Roth, Tim Roth's Nick, because he simply wouldn't grow up, and he needed to change. But there's always that possibility that relationship could again blossom. All of this is sort of implicit. The movie is sort of a tone poem. It's about mood. It's about what it feels like in your 20s. It's often called a Generation X movie, but I think there's universal qualities to all these characters. I was in my 20s in the 1970s, and I identified immediately with this sense of drift and the decisions that you make in your 20s are so monumental as far as your career and who you're going to choose to live the rest of your life with. And these are difficult. Anxiety, ennui sets in. Let's just not think about it. Kind of feeling. It's also it was made at the apex, I guess, of the independent filmmaking movement in the 1990s. Sex Lies and Videotapes had been a hit. This movie is often criticized for using the same kind of title as Sex Lies and Videotape, and it had a similar kind of ennui, kind of angsty feeling in that movie. But Bodies, Rest in Motion was actually a stage play before Sex Lies and Videotape ever came out, and a fairly successful one in that it played at Lincoln Center. Laurie Metcalf and Andrew McCarthy were in the original production, and it has been revived at least once since. So, and there's a very good, Michael Steinberg, the director, is contributing to this edition, this Blu-ray edition, about a 30-minute explanation, or kind of not a interview. He's just photographing himself in a car in a street corner, where the genesis of Bodies Rest in Motion was originated. It's really good. He really describes the movie, what it meant to him. It played at Sundance, made quite a splash at Sundance. Played at the Cannes Film Festival. It was picked up by Criterion Collection for a Laserdisc edition, which is still available on eBay. So the movie, but when the movie opened, it got good reviews. It opened in L.A. and in New York. Janet Maslin gave it a good review, as did The Hollywood Reporter. They did good business on its original, I guess, sixth city. But then when it opened wide, it bombed. It bombed almost immediately. Its distribution, I think it was New Line. They pulled the film almost immediately. There was many negative reviews. Roger Ebert gave it an emphatic thumbs down. But it's developed a kind of a cult reputation over the last 20-some years. And Quentin Tarantino was a big fan of the movie, and he played it at his cinema in L.A. not that long ago. There's also an original commentary, and I must say Roger Hedden, who is the screenwriter, he has a very short, maybe 5-minute explanation or discussion of how the play that appeared in New York City, how he developed it into a screenplay. But there's also an original commentary that was on the DVD copy, which is the one I saw. I saw this movie 3 or 4 times, I guess, on DVD. I think I rented it through Netflix. So I've always liked this movie. And in this commentary, it's Michael Steinberg mostly, and it's Roger Hedden somewhat, and then a little bit of Eric Stoltz. And Eric Stoltz was also the producer, and really he had appeared in Michael Steinberg's earlier film Waterworks, where they struck up a friendship, and he liked the screenplay, and he liked the idea of making movies that you really loved rather than making the $50-60 million Hollywood movies. He was with Bridget Fonda. Eric Stoltz was with Bridget Fonda, romantically involved with her at the time, so they have great chemistry together in the movie. He got her on board. Phoebe Cates was Fonda's best friend. Tim Roth was he had to be convinced, right before production began, he got a big-time offer from a major Hollywood movie, and they relied on, as the commentary states, they relied on Harvey Keitel, who gets a thanks in the credits, for convincing Tim Roth to make movies you really want to make and don't worry so much about the money. In the 1990s, in the apex of independent films, it seemed like an important thing to do. Many of these people have sort of disappeared. Of course, Bridget Fonda, the main one, I don't think she's been in anything since maybe 2002. Phoebe Cates, 2001. So they've kind of disappeared in plain sight, evidently happily married and raising a family. But Michael Steinberg too he directed 3 solos, one with Neil Jimenez. He produced some stuff, but basically after 1999, no features. But he does have something on IMDb saying that there's a couple projects in pre-production. So perhaps he's been teaching. Roger Hedden too. 1998 was his last credit. He was a playwright, so perhaps he's writing plays now. So there was some real talent. I mean, I guess the real appeal of the movie is the cast. The cast is superb, and the interesting characters, ambiance, the mood of the film is very good. There's also one little surprise where Tim Roth's out in the middle of the desert, and we get a really good music score that's using Indian chants as Native American chants in its music score. When Eric Stoltz, the painter, when he has his radio, we get 3 tunes and softly in the background of the Flying Burrito Brothers featuring Graham Parsons, one of my favorite groups of the alt country sound. But Peter Fonda, Bridget's father, rides into next to a phone booth in an isolated early morning parking lot of a restaurant not yet open, and he rides in on a motorcycle and has one line as Tim Roth has sort of destroyed the phone booth in frustration, and he asks him if the phone booth is still working. Bridget Fonda had never been, at least up to that time, had never been in a movie with her father. So she wanted to be in the same scene with him, or I don't think they were ever in the same scene together. And you can't see her, but according to the commentary, she was actually hiding out in the back seat of the car, so she could say she was in fact in a scene with her father. So overall, cult movie. You like, if you don't mind the slow movingness, kind of atmospheric kind of movie. I highly recommend it. To me, it's a real favorite, a real winner. Bodies Rest in Motion. Okay, thanks a lot to everybody, as always, for sticking with me this far, if you have, and I really appreciate it. You guys take care, and I'll catch you next time.